Good morning. I have no idea how well the internet will hold or T-Mobile, but I wanted to be outside. Um, I've Today's my birthday. I have never been in the public on my birthday. Never. I have even had people plan birthday parties for me, and I wouldn't show up. So my birthdays have always been spent with um, the higher powers, and which I call the realms of the beloved, and the beings at Shasta, and the selves that I met in Damanhur, and elementals in Ireland, and and the gods and goddesses in Ireland, and the strange hauntings in the deserts of Saudi Arabia and now New Mexico, and the birds and the trees and the plants and the animals and the skies and the mother. I've never I've never done my birthday with human beings. I have, in the sense of, like, Ann Turrell and I have been out on the land together, and I've had people with me on my birthday, when I got to go into the sacred energy that I respect and appreciate, that gives me life and has me carry on. So I found it shockingly vulnerable that my Facebook Live was showing up on my 75th year, beginning of my 75th year. I had been going through some old diaries, basically getting them ready to toss. And I found one when my daughter wasn't even born, so that would have been before 1980. So I would have been, I don't know, a long time ago, in my early 30s. And I was writing in my diary about, I didn't think I would go much past 75. But I remember writing it when I read it, and because 75 was so old in my 30s. It was remarkably old. And it was interesting to read it in a different context of, I may not make it much past 75, but the context was not that. The context was all those 55 years between the time I wrote that in my diary and today, and how incredibly rich and plentiful my life has been. And the two elements of my life in the human world, the two elements were really my clients, some of which have become my deepest friends, and my children. So in the human world, I have really had the opportunity to see human beings discover who they came to be. I've seen courage. Under the worst kind of circumstances. I've walked into a hospital with somebody so I could talk to the doctor and tell him she needed to rest, and another to make sure their heart could get fixed. So I'm just incredibly present to the privilege. It's been all these years all the privilege it's been to be invited into other people's lives. Just the grace of how it sculpts you and how it forms you and deepens you and inspirits you to be in the moments with another human being in the greatest of their sorrows, and then the amazing wins that they have. I just can't believe it. I can't believe it's been 55 years. Just amazing to me. And so many of you, to get to walk in your shoes. I think that's the greatest gift a human being can ever give another human being. And the greatest gift a human being can provide is taking a minute to walk in another's shoes. You meet grace and beauty and tenderness and strength and courage. You meet the true value of a human being, and you're just never the same for it. I've always thought that's what the tantric was. I never thought the tantric was sexuality, and I was really sad that it got turned into that. One time, my son, I told C I was going to tell some stories, so I'll probably tell one about each of my kids, just short ones. They wouldn't be on Facebook Live today, and I think a lot of us are in the era where your children don't come to you as an elder and hear your stories. They don't have time. I don't mind. My kids are very busy with quality of life. That matters more to me than them sitting around me hearing my stories. But I think that just talked me right out of the story I was going to tell. I will tell one on John Aaron. It's one of my favorites because it has to do with walking in another's shoes. He was 4 years old, and I traveled a lot. Deb and Russ and Cynthia and Holly and C eventually took care of my kids because I was always on the road or always working. And when Aaron was 4, he ran out the door and hugged me around my legs and said, "Mommy, I miss you so much, my heart hurts." And I said, "I'm so sorry." And he looked at me like he was offended. And he said, "Why are you sorry, Mom? If my heart didn't hurt, I wouldn't know how much I love you." And he said, I talked to God last night, and I said, "I'm just going to tie a string to your heart. So wherever you go, my heart will follow you. Will go with you." He said, he didn't say follow you. So every time I read that, E.E. Cummings, "I carry your heart, I carry it in my heart," I remember that conversation. And then my daughter, Liana, she lifted her head up. She was born, I delivered her. She was born face up in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Somebody ran up and down the hall, letting them know I wouldn't be murdered. Because if you've ever had a small child's head bounce on your spine, it's incredibly painful. And fact, I broke my husband's thumb, or dislocated my husband's thumb I was holding on to. And but when I woke up from after delivering her, I get to deliver her myself. The midwife showed me how to put my fingers in her shoulders, and I lifted her up, and her face was right in my face. And I put her on my belly, and when I woke up, she had her head lifted looking at me. I've got my eye on you. She had a hard time with her body, like her mom. Just really hard time. Not weight like me, but hormones and thyroid and antibodies and T4s that go off the charts. But the amount of gift she carries to the world, the way you hear her speak about equity and equality is not like you hear anywhere else. It's a real desire to be part, to walk in the shoes of all people. To walk in the shoes of all people. And my beloved Jeremy, who passed on when he was 5, well, he used to pet the wings of wasps on his plate and carry baby water moccasins up for me to see. And he just wasn't of this world. That's probably why he couldn't stick around. But if you'd known me back then, you wouldn't have liked me very much. I was really angry. I was really angry and really lashing out at the world everywhere. And this little angel got born to me and taught me how to love again. Brought me back from the abyss. And left, and he was done. And I experienced being enlightened fully for about 10 days. I would literally, with my fiance, I'd walk towards like a 7-Eleven. I don't know if you all know those anymore. And the door would open on its own, and went to Linville Gorge in North Carolina and stood there while the rocks moved and this choir of angels roared through the valley, and all these people were just shocked that if they were standing near me, they could hear heaven. So that's what Tantra has always been for me, not my identity or not my title, but the gift of heaven. The gift of heaven by getting to walk in others' shoes. All people's shoes. The shared field of human being, the one soul. And it's amazing. And I still remember the day that I lost the court case. My mom was trying to take my son Ricky away from me. His name was Michael for me. And I was fighting her. I was only 20, so I couldn't have sovereignty over my child. But I knew my mother wasn't going to get to raise him. She was mean. She was also probably had Graves' disease or some kind of thyroid disease that made her crazy. But we didn't know enough back then to get her help. We just thought she was an alcoholic. And I remember the day the nurse came to take him out of my arms. She looked at me with such disdain, such almost hate. And there went my boy. And then 50 years later, 45 years later, he finds me again. His wife, Angelique, is like me. We always laugh that he married his mother. And he's very, in his own manner, very straight and proper. But he's the most like me of all my children. And I didn't even get to be with him for 45 years. And so many memories. For some of you in Washington, D.C., that area going out to, I can't remember her name, the old lady who had the 20-person hot tub, and where we used to do retreats, and where we did the retreat where the men, lots of men, sat on the floor and they held a woman in their arms in front of them and rebirthed them. It was so powerful. It was so powerful. I used to do really outrageous retreats. Really outrageous. I think that one was called, I can't remember. Maybe there's some people that were there that they might remember. But the next day, after that rebirthing, where the men got to rebirth the woman, they had gone out that afternoon. They said they wanted to cook for us the next day. So we said, okay. It's about 16 men. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was quite a brazen name. And they'd gone out and gotten tuxedos. And when we woke up, they had the white napkin over their tuxedo, and they'd made the meal, and a man would come and take the woman and sit her. I wonder if Jim was there. I think he was. And sit him at the table and serve their food. And we were all crying so hard we couldn't eat. And something happened. Something happened between us all. Russ was there. Russ Merchant was there. And something happened to us. Like we got to live in another kind of world. A world that was right in so many exquisite ways. Not religiously right or proper, but sweet and kind and loving, and who men could be with women and who women could be with men. None of us ever recovered from it. And we've all been close ever since then, all these years. Washington, D.C. was in the 80s. My daughter was born in Gaithersburg, and she's the only daughter. Well, there's another daughter who, Erin was a twin, but Tama didn't make it. She died pretty much in the first 6 weeks of embryonic development. So she's sort of our ethereal child. And then the Vision Quest. Oh my God. I'm longing to do another Vision Quest. Don't know if I can ever do it again, but it was so amazing to do those Vision Quests and to watch people shift into being part of the mother. You didn't have to say a word. You just fed them with these crazy, wonderful Jim and our cook, who just made these extraordinary meals and was a leprechaun on his own, and just magic. The Irish men who that took care of us and the boys, and helped us all get on boats out to the Blaskins, and would walk at a distance while people were wandering up over the hills and the mountains, and then standing away from them, and like sentinels when there was a hit. A hit is when the mother comes and gets you and you can't move. Oh yeah, and they help pull people out of the bog because one of the tests was learning how to walk. One of the challenges was learning how to walk the bog, because the bog it's like there's this almost trampoline weaving mat across this really gucky, murky water that you go in up to here on. And so part of being one with the land, sometimes in some of the quests, were to walk bog. And if you walked it lightly and you just kept going, you could make it across. It was like being on a springboard. You had to be light, and you had to trust. It's sort of like a fire walk, only it was a bog walk. But every now and then somebody go down and then take two of the boys to grab them and pull them up, and you'd hear this big, when the body uh, popped out of the bog, there'd be this big pop that would happen, and then we'd have to get towels and stand them by the what do you call it, the vans that we had, and because everybody had to always bring a change of clothes and layers, and then we'd have to wash them down and behind the towel, and they'd have to get naked and change clothes, and it was so raw and so real. One time, and Turl remembers this, when we went out to this island. I don't remember the island anymore, but it was actually the seat of learning in Ireland. What happened when the Romans took over the world, a lot of the sacred books were actually, the monks fled and went to this island, and it was like a big library. And people came there to learn after the Romans had pretty much destroyed the Druidic culture. They would come there to learn, and so we all took boats over to this island, and everybody left and left me there. they thought, everybody thought I was on another boat. I was fine. I've been fine to stay there the whole day, except for the fact they were going about 40 miles up the coast, 20 miles up the coast. And so I could see Anne in a distance. Nobody even realized I wasn't on a boat. I could see her in a distance. And we used to sing to each other. We sing songs to each other. So I stood at the end of the pier, and at the loud as I could, I started singing the way, what is her name? Chloe Goodchild teaches you to sing, where I was going, and I was just singing at the top of my lungs. And all of a sudden you saw her red hair head flip and look back, and I just gently waved. And the funny thing, they were in a tide. They were in tide, and so it was really hard to turn around. But one of the boats with the boys turned around and came back and got me. And then there was the time we were also in Killarney, and my beloved Niall, my friend, who's dead now, and 29 years my junior, we were deeply, deeply in love. But we weren't in love like normal. We were in love like ancient children who still remembered paradise. We were so precious together. We were adorable. We were ageless, because I think I was in my 50s, and he was 29, or whatever 29 and 29 is, because I was 54. And we used to play hide and seek, but he and Jim Dempsey, who was our cook, and one other person, I can't remember who it was, one of the other boys on our trip, I think it was Tim, the martial artist, on our trip. So we're all unpacking everything at this place at the end of the lake to get ready to have a picnic and be silent, because there was always the silence. And they decided they were going to catch a lamb. Now Niall looks like a Greek god. He's about 6'4". Jim Dempsey looks like an elephant, and then you've got this muscular Tim, who's a martial artist, and one other, I can't remember who, and Con just looks at me and shakes his head, because you just can't catch a lamb. You can't do that. And suddenly we hear the boys screaming and yelling and hollering as the lambs wiggle out of their hands and they land flat out in the mud. And then at one point, Jim Dempsey says, "I got one," and he's down on the ground. He's like bent over with his butt up, and he's got the lamb pressed underneath his chest with his butt in the air, and their protector, which is a goat, a ram, a ram, rams him right in the butt. You hear this blood-curdling scream, and they decide to quit. They decide to quit chasing lambs. It was amazing times. Really amazing times. So Ireland is one of my beloved lands, and a place that I that's a neighbor dog. We want to take a cinder block out of our wall so that he can escape over here when they're gone, because they're gone a lot, or go hit their gates open, so I could just go capture him, but better not to rile the neighbors. So that's my trip down memory lane. That's my just wow, the good memories and hard times. I've definitely, I had cancer, terminal cancer in 1997. Gave me 6 weeks to live. So here we are. And so I had hard times. We all have. We've all had hard times. But I don't think it's possible here not to. I think our biological playing field is, I dreamed last night a lot. I always dream on my birthday. I get lots of instructions, lots of resets, lots of, because remember, it's my time with my beloved of creation in the ethers. And but one of the dreams I had was really interesting, because if I say it this way, it'll go into another way. People get used to doing things. I don't like that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I've really been having a very hard time with my physical body and my heart, both my physical heart and my emotional heart since last summer. And we're about to hit summer again, so it's really been rough, and I've had cancer, and I've had a collapse of immunity system for 2 years, but something about this has been rougher than I planned. And I think part of it was because Lily was my, you know how when you have your beloved, you can crawl up in bed with every night. She was my buffer. She was my blankie, as my son Aaron would call his blanket. She was my comfort, where I received comfort. And so not having that physical comfort as a cellular empath is extremely hard. And my dragons came with me, which I had been care tagged and made part of the family of the Sanda Force, but they help. They help a lot. I'm very otherworldly, and I've never been able to be normal to myself. I can be relatively normal to others. But so the need for that physicalness, the need for a guardian presence, the need for the nether worlds and I to stay wound together is extremely important for me. But last night in the dream, or this morning actually, I don't think I can even put it in a sentence. I realized that kind of how I've been holding this, which is hard, but it's not hard from the context I'd put it in. And then I remembered other times in my life where I went through what I would call enlightenment experiences. And those enlightenment experiences, I think people think that suddenly you're joyful and you're full of glee and life's perfect and all's well with the world, but it's actually not how you get there. How you get there is more like a peeling away. It has more of a gut engagement. It's like you're peeling away the scars, you're peeling away the wounds, you're peeling away the that which you had gathered or had been gathered upon you, as we would say in Gaelic, that which had gathered upon you, that is called transmutation, transfiguration. Wow, it's really hard to believe, but I think it might be true that I and others are going through a transmutational, metamorphic transfiguration, and that that our flesh is going through a metamorphic experience. I could even say rebirth, but even rebirth is held in an old paradigm. But there is an element of feeling like I am being reborn, and it's like there's two of me. One is hoping she'll make it through the day without having to go to bed from ache, pain, or fatigue, and or high blood pressure. And the other one is, the other part of me is with C, making our backyard and front yard paradise, and our house paradise. And one feels real, and one feels old. One feels like when I had cancer, I went and danced with death. I had to go find him. See, that's what you do as a mystic. You just take things in hand. You go find what you need, to get the deal, find the answer, and take your path. And I found death. And he was an old man. He was all cobwebbed, and his eyes were crusted shut, and his skin was dry and cracking. And he was in a corner, down in a prison, like a stone prison. And I ran to him because I knew death had a place, and we had not been giving death a place. We'd become afraid of it instead of dancing with him. So in the trance state I was in, I grabbed his, arthritic, rigid, frozen hands, and I said, please come dance with me. I want to be a friend. And this whole long trance was all about trusting each other and holding each other again, and a living being, and that which operates when our bodies die. And I told him I promised him I would be a friend of death, that I would befriend him, and that I would do everything I could to make sure that death and life are equally as immortal, equally as beautiful, equally as sweet, equally as life-enhancing and life-generating. And then, of course, I started years later, 1997, I was in Dominar for my 68th birthday. Somebody do the math. I was born in 1946. And of course, their work is about making sure that we don't ever have to die to ourselves, that we can keep remembering. We can keep remembering and carry on, but then you have to really love your life. You have to really treasure every day, regardless of circumstances, or in my case, the condition of my body. You have to garden life. Life is here for us to make it a garden. And there are weeds in a garden, and my plant over here I found out is poisonous to animals. And but we're going to keep him. We're going to keep him. He's our token caster. You have to look up the god. And we're going to transplant him under our, I'm going to move my phone in a minute so you can meet Figgy. But the point is that I've really met death between COVID and the death of Lily. I can feel there's something about meeting it and considering it might be part of your repertoire. Not trying to have it be, actually always operating on behalf of life, but consider it part of the repertoire of life, that it is quite possible it's generating some kind of metamorphic transmutation. What I do know is that a lot of us are trying to deep dive. There's an intimacy we long for. And I think it's down to the biological level. I don't think it's down to the biological level and the emotional level and the soul level. And personalities have not been designed to be that intimate, to go that deep, to have life be that profound. But something greater than our surface life is afoot. And I think it's our deep soul nature, our immortal nature, the wonders of what we are when we're no longer in the limitation of a broken matrix of separation. And so I'm my own client at the moment. I'm my own healer. I am partnering with that which would give me the opportunity to transfigure and to transmutate. And I don't know why or what for. It's not purposeful. It's just what's up. It just seems real. So I'm just going to move the phone a minute. See how well I do this. I'm going to turn the thing. Sure, see the. I'm going to move really slowly because I have to show you our new plant. That's our workout room. This is where we're growing our. That's the castor plant right down there. Oh, I adore. Right. Let's see if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. Yeah, there he is right there. That's the castor plant. Everything has a place. And then I'm going to very carefully close your eyes. So I'm going to move us around over here fast. So close your eyes. And this is our fig. Isn't he beautiful? Those are our two boys. He's beautiful. And he'll be planted back there. He'll cover that wall. He'll be about 30 by 30. And of course, you can see Yolinda. And over there is Owen. I think you can see him. And that's what I've got to show you. And that's the door into our house, into the fireplace room. And now I'm going to try to go back and set this down. Close your eyes again. Oops, sorry. Okay, I think I got it. Now let's see. Yeah, we're good. So, thank you for being with me on my birthday. Thank you for letting me reminisce about my own life. It is important to me, actually, today to sort of make a record, um, a memoir. Today was a memoir day. And thank you for playing such a deep, powerful role in my life. I have loved to walk in your shoes. I have felt your kindness, not to, I don't mean towards me. I felt your kindness toward yourself. I love the kindness towards me too. I won't leave that out. But I mostly mean I've seen the strength of your resolve. I've seen the fragility of your love. There's nothing that can ever make life so valuable as the opportunity to let you be in their shoes and walk with them in their life. Namaste.